So what does family wealth building mean to you? What it means to me is really that lifestyle, but also family wealth building means building something for my son in the future.
And what you're doing is you're starting to think like a business owner. You're starting to think of how are these financial decisions going to impact other people, other investments. Should I do this investment versus that investment based on the amount of time, based on the rate of return? So you start understanding what makes sense for you based on what your lifestyle and what investments you should do for your family.
So a lot of people, and you may have heard, out there a lot, where it's like avoid debt all that you can, but as we've known in our lifestyle, all debt isn't bad. So I think you really have to understand how to leverage it and how it's going to help you succeed.
We explained ways to build wealth from areas of difficulty, from easy to hard. The stock is kind of probably the easiest one. The other one is real estate. So that's, I would say, the medium difficulty. And then the last one, which is the business.
If you want to go out and spend the money, that's fine, that's your choice. But it does make it very difficult to lead both lives. If you're trying to continue building wealth and you're trying to spend whatever you have earned, it's a little bit difficult to do both.
All right, and welcome to the Everything About Wealth podcast. How you doing, Des?
Good, how are you?
Good. And what are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about family wealth building.
All right. So that's a great topic. I mean, that's a topic I like to talk about. I mean, I love talking about wealth building and finance and everything that can involve that, especially when it involves family, because that's something that the reason why we work hard and we want to build these things and is to enjoy more time with family.
Right.
So
And I love talking about family. So it goes together.
Definitely. Okay, so we have a list of questions that we put together, that some things that we have a bit of an understanding of what we want to do, but some things we actually are in the process of still clarifying and digging deeper on and kind of evolving, right?
I think, it's not a one size fits all. And I think as you go through life, things change. So you need to update your wealth plan as well with your family. So there's a lot of things that change throughout the duration of your time. So I think it's always going to be something that you have to go back, look at, change. But we're going to go over some ways you can do wealth building for your family, for generational wealth, and what we're currently planning to do. Our plan now.
Or at least thinking about doing.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started. So I guess like one of the main topics, when we talk about family wealth building, even with some of our friends, is kind of like, what does that mean to you? So what does family wealth building mean to you?
Well, I mean, it's a broad definition. I mean, it could be having a word that comes up is financial independence and financial freedom. And what that means is having enough cash flow coming in from your business where it covers your bills and you don't have to necessarily go out and get a job and work for someone unless you want to. You have that flexibility, that choice. And so that's something on the kind of like the first level, I would say. And then the other things are to build wealth where you have a net worth where you can use that to give back to other people. You have enough money for yourself to give back to other people, and then also to pass on if that's something that you want to do to your children or grandchildren, etc. And really, that's really what wealth building is to me. And you build that wealth, and it gets to the point where it's also a bit of a game where you look at wealth building as kind of like Monopoly to a certain degree. You buy a little more greenhouses, more red hotels, and you start accumulating that. But really, the reason you want to accumulate it, to me, my main goal is really to give it away. That's what I want to spend a lot of my time doing after building a lot of it.
Yeah, and I think to clarify, this can mean so many different things to everyone.
Subjective.
Yeah, it is. So don't think what we think family wealth building should be is going to be the same thing that it will be for you and your family. This is just our perspective of it, and you have a little bit of idea what we may be talking about when we say family wealth building. And for me, it's more about lifestyle. It's one of the important things for me is just being able to have more flexible schedules. We're able to build our wealth with investments at the current time, which has given me the time to have a flexible schedule, to go on to travel. We enjoy traveling when we want. And also, having the time that I can spend with my family when I want to. When my son is sick, it's easier for me not to be so concerned about, work, because I can give my all to him just because we do have that flexibility.
And it happens often.
And it happens because he is in daycare, so it happens often. And so that's something that's just important to me. Maybe it's the mama bear in me.
I mean, it just happened, what, a week and a half
Yeah.
ago, where for 4 days, I mean, he got, what was it? He had like some
A
type of stomach bug.
virus.
Yeah, he had a stomach bug. He couldn't go to preschool. And I mean, Monday through Thursday, we kept him home with us. And then on Friday, there was actually there was no preschool either,
Yeah.
which when he was gonna go back.
Which we
So
found out.
yeah, so the whole week he was
Today.
with us, and but we had that flexibility that we could just
Right.
say, okay, everything's on hold right now, or you're gonna spend time with him in the morning, and me in the back in the morning or in the afternoon, and then we can do that.
Yeah,
Which
exactly. Which is what we like to do. Someone may not want to do that, but that's just what I like to do. I like to have the option to do that.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's kind of that's what it means to me is really that lifestyle, but also family wealth building means building something for my son in the future, as well, to continue to carry on what we've built. Denny and I didn't come from wealthy families. I
Mhm.
come from a middle income family. And everything that we've done, which we've built with our investments, we've done by ourselves.
Mhm.
We haven't, in the very beginning, we didn't ask money from our family. Denny did a great job by going out networking with private investors. So it's keeping that, and for my son to also continue growing, so he can decide what he wants to do in the future. I can't tell what he's gonna want to do, but yeah, it's to continue that, and hopefully, continue teaching him as well, all about what we're doing, and he probably will learn more about what we know.
That's the goal. The
And
goal.
taking him further, which would be
Yeah.
beautiful. But yeah, that's really what it means to me regarding
And with that, something to think about, like, I mean, I love you touched the point on lifestyle, and then you kind of ended it on the great point, which was on the education side. And really, but wealth building and financial independence, all these things, really it's kind of up here, right? So you change this mindset where you start thinking and having that mindset of a wealthy mindset, kind of repeating mindset again. But in what you're doing is you're starting to think like a business owner. You're starting to think of how are these financial decisions going to impact other people, other investments. Should I do this investment versus that investment based on the amount of time, based on the rate of return? So you start understanding what makes sense for you based on what your lifestyle and what investments you should do for your family. So it's kind of
yeah. We're not gonna be here and tell you you need to do this, you need to do that, which some people have done. I know, I've seen. But it's not a one shoe fits everybody. You really have to figure out what works best for you, what you're able to do now, and where you see yourself is definitely something for you to sit down and decide what type of lifestyle do you see yourself living in. Flexibility, what are you doing? Do you want more time with your family? Do you want to be able to travel? Maybe you just want additional income, but you love working your job. That's great. Everybody has different goals. So I definitely would recommend sitting down, even your husband and wife separately, and coming up with some of your lifestyle goals. and then you guys can come back and talk about them. And it's very interesting to see, where you're similar, where you may be different, but you want to work on it together at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
And I think it starts with your values, right? Like something that we did recently, which I enjoyed, is you had your values that you wrote down, and I sat down and I wrote my values, and then you actually told, we were reviewing them together, but later you understood why I like to do the things that I do and the way that I do them, right? Because I like adventure and
what were your top three values? Do you remember?
yeah, I mean, adventure was one, achievement was another, relationships was another, and learning was another, and can't remember what my fifth one is, but really all those things go together for me. So then if it's so knowing what kind of what buttons to press for you, I kind of have a better understanding of why you do what you do,
Yeah.
and then we can make it all work.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the next one? So we talked about what it means, right? Which is lifestyle, right? And then what are some ways? That's what.
Yeah, I think one of the ways, so a lot of people, and you may have heard, out there a lot, where it's like avoid debt, all that you can, but as we've known in our lifestyle, all debt isn't bad. So I think you really have to understand how to leverage it and how it's going to help you succeed. So, for example, we're not talking about, oh, go get more debt by buying another car if you already have a car that you use just to have another car sitting in the lot. Where we leverage debt, where we think it is good debt, is purchasing multifamily properties, purchasing commercial properties. That way, we can produce the cash flow that we want. And then also, whether we're going in to do renovations, value add, or we're looking for it to appreciate within so many years, that's what we use debt for a lot. So I think there are ways to use it positively, and also ways for you to gauge it in order for you to reach your goals. But other ways is to avoid debt, where it's in sense of, make sure you're living within your means and not trying to live up with the Joneses, as everybody says, because you think that's what people want to see you in at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Kiyosaki says it in a great way. He says he looks at there's good and there's bad debt, and a good way to know is good debt is debt that when you get it, it's actually going to put money in your pocket, right? And then bad debt is going to take money out of your pocket, and you think about, wow, how is that going to put money in my pocket? Well, if you go out and buy a house, let's just say, keeping it simple, and that house, after you pay the mortgage and you pay the taxes and you pay management, all the fees that you have to pay after you own a rental property, you rent it out, and it puts $100 in your pocket every month. Well, that's good debt, because that debt is being paid for a resident, a tenant that lives in that property. So that's good debt. So focus on assets, using debt to buy assets that generate income.
Right.
I mean, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And then, so that's one way, real estate. And real estate has worked well for us. I mean, a lot of our experience is primarily focused on real estate, but we actually do a lot of reading and studying, and there's several other areas that you can build wealth in. I like real estate because you can use debt to buy it, and then you can build wealth that way. So it magnifies that. But you can also use the stock market is another great way that people build wealth. Either could be by buying stocks individually, could be by investing for the long term, and just in your 401k or
Money market.
Yeah, money market. Well, a money market is a great way to put money in. If you have, let's say, some money and you want to keep it for the short term. Right now, the money markets are generating some great returns. I mean, we're in 2023 and they're like 5%, which before it was like zero, right? So that's a great way to earn a good return that you're still beating inflation. And you've been actually studying some stuff lately. What's another great way that from the book you're reading now that to build wealth? Businesses?
Businesses, yes, that's another way. You have to learn how to purchase them right, of course, just like real estate.
Mhm.
But there's a big difference between how businesses can produce income, which seems to be at a higher level than what real estate does. But buying business is another great way. And then there's different ways to utilize leveraging with SBA loans as well, where you're putting a 10% down payment. But then you're having a cash flow, over $100,000 to live the lifestyle you may want to live. You're owning your own business, which can come with the caveats, but some people may or may not like owning their own business, which is fine. It's not for everybody.
No.
But yeah, that's another great way as well, where you purchase a business that may have small growth throughout the years. And then within 3 to 5 years after it's grown, you can resell it. And again, it's the same thing like real estate, it's increased in value, you sell it, and then within the interim, you're getting cash flow from it as well. So yeah, business is another great way to do it as well.
And these are just a few ways.
Yeah.
There's so many other ways. One thing that we just did, the way that we explained it, and we didn't even plan this, was that we explained ways to build wealth from areas of difficulty, from easy to hard, right? Which I would say that, and maybe the stock is kind of probably the easiest one, but stock investing is, you just set it and forget it, buy an index fund or buy a mutual fund, ETF, and you just throw the money in there every month, $100, $50, $200, whatever you can. And then in 10, 20, 30 years, it's just gonna compound, right? Easy. The other one is, real estate. You analyze it, you buy it, you can have property managers to take care of your investment. So that's, I would say, the medium difficulty. And then the last one, which is the businesses, right? Well, now you have to get involved, get your hands dirty, and really probably manage it and manage people. So, and there's so many other ways, but these are some ways that we've looked into and are focused on.
Right, exactly. So I know a big question is, well, family wealth building, how do you keep it generational wealth? How do you build it? So I know one way is to make sure your children are able to get an education, have access to education, and making one of our goals is to make sure that we teach our son more about finance. And even we're wanting to possibly start in high school when he's, starting those beautiful teen years.
Well, he needs to start soon. I mean, I'm going to start teaching him in a few months, and he's only 2.5, so.
The best years of your life with your teenagers, from what I heard. But yeah, that's kind of one of our top goals. And I think that's the way you're going to produce generational wealth, is by teaching your children about finance, about investing, and what we've learned. Hopefully they may learn even more than what we've learned now, but at least what the knowledge we can pass on to them. I know there's people have different ideas of whether or not they should pass their wealth to their children.
Yeah, I mean, and that's still a debate in my head. I'll admit it.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's a debate, and there's someone who I follow, Monish Pabrai, and I think the comment came from Warren Buffett, that you want to, if you want to look at wealth and passing down wealth, you want to put, if it was 100-yard dash, right, like that you were running, you want to put your kids on the 10-yard line, not on the 40th, right? So you don't want to give them such a big head start that they may not be able to appreciate it, they may not be able to handle it. And that has a good argument, really. Monish mentioned this, but there's another argument, and this one was really recently from Jay-Z. And he said, oh, we want to pass down wealth because we want to make sure that as minorities, he was referencing that, that wealth continues to be taken care of and grown and harvested to do good, and for the family to do well in the future. So
Sam Walton also believes in generational wealth as
yeah,
well.
okay, what did Sam Walton say? Because I read his book, but I can't remember that part. What do you
Well, he brings it up quite often that he just wants to make sure that he's able to pass on to his children. He grows his business and continues to grow it the best that he can because he wants his children to take over the business and he wants their children to take over the business. So I think he also sees it as a he's leaving a legacy at the end of the day. But he's mentioned, especially toward the end of the book, where that's something that's very important to him and that they're knowledgeable about the business and how to continue growing businesses into the future, whether or not it's in his, but he specifically wishes it's in his business.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that's very important to him, and he's been a great entrepreneur throughout the same time as Warren Buffett and whatnot.
So
I think it just really depends, I agree. With Jay-Z, it's the same thing that I feel. I see myself passing down. I understand, when they're 18, they don't need to come and take over what we built at the age of 18. I think it'll be great for him to go out and work for another company, get his own experience, build up his own knowledge, and see how different companies may run compared to how we do our business. And then maybe, after some time, I don't know, depending on each person and how they mature and what they want to do, if this is something he wants to do, maybe 5 or something years down the road, if he feels that he's interested in what we've done and continuing on what we've built, I think that would be a discussion at that time. But yeah,
I'm gonna say it clear. I want him to come into the business, okay? But of course, I'll leave that up to him.
I agree. You can't push someone so quickly into
No.
that life. I feel like there's just too much to experience as well as a child. And I don't think it always needs to be under the wings of the parents. They need to go and fly on their own a little bit
Of course.
and learn.
I like the idea of him going to work for the company because they get new skills and
new ideas, something that maybe we haven't came across. And there's a lot of larger companies than what we have. We have a very small investment portfolio in what we're trying to build. So I always think you can learn a lot from working from others as well. So that's how I would see it more with him, where he would go out and then later on in life we would discuss possibly how we would implement any type of investments that we have built for ourselves and where we see the goals even after we leave him as well. So that's where I really see it. But
yeah. So in the end, really, there's no right answer to this. This is really a personal decision. Yes. You look at your situation and how you feel about it, and maybe there's something in between, that you do. I've heard, from the Millionaire Mind book, Millionaire Next Door, that sometimes they don't even give people any wealth or a big chunk of the wealth until they're older, because then they already have developed their financial habits, and then they take it, handle it in a different way. I mean, Sam Walton, and if you haven't read the book Made in America, you should. It's a Sam Walton story, the founder of Walmart and Sam's Club. But he also was really adamant about living frugally and living below his means. Like his family really, they focus on that all the way around. So yeah, really great story.
Also Warren Buffett also has that type of lifestyle as well, where I'm pretty sure everybody knows he lived in the same house since the 1960s or so, and driving the same car. I think a big lesson.
I don't know about the same car, but maybe the same house.
Truck. No. He drove the same car till of course it didn't work any longer.
Yeah.
But he didn't go immediately go buy a new car whenever he was successful.
That makes sense.
But I kind of think that it's just some of the lessons that we learned is that even though you don't, when we come across, you made me lose my train of thought.
Okay. Well, you'll get it back. You'll get it back.
Yeah, I was gonna say some of the lessons we learned from them, and I think we're pretty frugal ourselves, is that even though you are having successes with your investments, We're not going out and spending them all on new cars and bigger houses each time.
Yeah,
And
but again, that's another personal choice too, right?
right.
Um,
Well, no, I'm just saying that one thing that they talk about, and one of the lessons to take from them is to make sure you reinvest your funds so that you can continue building your wealth. If you want to go out and spend the money, that's fine, that's your choice, but it does make it very difficult to leave both lives. If you're trying to continue building wealth and you're trying to spend whatever you have earned, it's a little bit difficult to do both.
Yeah.
So it's not to say you can't reward yourself if you want to, but you do need to have a plan to continue building it. And it takes funds to do that. You know, it's not one of those things that will continue accruing without it. So that's what I was trying to say with that in regards
Got
to
it.
that.
Makes sense.
But yeah, so I guess like the last thing is, you know, we've kind of talked about a little bit what we're planning to do in order for us to build our family wealth. One of the things that we're doing currently is, of course, is we just talked about is living frugally. So we just, for us, one of the things we like to do, I guess, too, is to travel. So, you know, we don't prefer big houses, we don't prefer expensive cars, but we do enjoy traveling. So that's one thing that we do spend our money on. But at the same time, I make sure to every month to look over our personal budget, which includes also our businesses as well, to see what we're spending money on. And then from there, I have a discussion with Denny where we have, you know, an idea of brackets of where we want to spend money. If something's gone over for the month, I usually say, hey, we were over in this month. And then it helps us plan for the next month of where we need to maybe hold back a little bit. And then we just ensure that with the funds that we do earn from investments, which would be great if we just want to go spend it all, but we try to put a plan together of how we want to use it for future investments and what we're going to do with those funds. So if we sold a multifamily property, are we going to go out and buy another multifamily property? Or currently what we're doing a large development. So those are some of the things that we do to continue building our portfolio and also our goals, our financial goals as well.
And I mean, the budgeting part, frankly, I that's not my preference. That's what Desiree does it, but it needs to be done. And I think something that works well is that also for couples, so is to have T. Harv Eker. This is another author. He think he wrote The Secret to Millionaire Success or something like Secret of the Millionaire Mind. That's what it was, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And he said have a play account, so you have a family account, and which I still need to set up my own, but you have yours, and it's so you can have kind of your separate items where if you know $500, $1,000, or whatever the number is, where you can spend that money and you don't have to worry about that because that's your your personal spend money. And that way it gives you a little bit of flexibility where you don't have to worry necessarily that, okay, I'm going to go over the budget, because you already made the budget every single month and you're like, I'm going to spend this amount of money on that item. But something else that we do is the college fund for Lorenzo.
Right.
And we're currently using a 529 plan. There's another one called the Coverdale, but our 529 works well for us because of our income and the amount of money that we put aside. I think the Coverdale, I think right now the maximum was, last time I looked, was like $2,000 a year, and we're putting a little bit over that. And then the money grows tax free, and he can use it for his education, and I believe it also is good for college. And you
do monthly.
Yep, we save monthly, and then we have it in an index fund with Vanguard, which I love Vanguard because their fees are low, and an index fund, it just goes with the markets on the S&P, it just follows the S&P, and then it's long-term thing, you set it and forget it. So that's something we're doing with the 529. Maybe in the future we start also looking into how maybe to use that for some real estate investing as well, maybe separately, but right now that's what we're doing. with that, and that excites me too. With for Lorenzo, something that I mentioned. I'll mention Monish again. He does something called an UGMA account, which is really just a gift that you can do annually. You have a limit, maybe like $10,000 a year, and this money is money that I believe it's tax deductible. You don't have to pay taxes on that money. The person doesn't have to, and you can do that for your kids, and then you do that every year until and you can do it for other people too. It doesn't have to be your kids. I think in fact, I think the UGMA is Uniform Gift to Minors, or it's actually for kids only. But yeah, that's another thing you could do if you want to hand out money once you start building it, to transfer it down. That's the generational wealth thing.
Right. And the other thing is we have a will, which is a part of estate planning.
Yeah.
We don't have a detailed plan for our estates, but we do have a will, which started the process that if anything ever happened to us, how those funds would be dispersed to whom, and the amounts as well. And of course, it lists our son on there as well. And again, that's one of those things that continuously will change. One of the things that has interested us, and we're going to look further into, is also the family trust, where I think that is more detail of how they can spend it, or how much is dispersed. Is a little bit
yeah, like, so there's something called the trust, and the trust, what the good thing about trust is you can designate how the money is spent and how they release the money once if something were to happen to you, or even if something doesn't happen to you, but how the money is spent, you can transfer in there, and the taxes, etc. We haven't set that up. That's actually a little bit more complex. Where we've kept things pretty simple, but soon, maybe in a few years, we may start looking into some of these things, just to make sure our family's protected, and make sure that we're in a good place, make sure that we're covered.
And it helps with generational wealth, because unfortunately, if you do have a family member or a son who wants to go and spend all the money at once because they want a fast car and all stuff like this, then that really prevents them from doing
it's like a stopgap, right?
Exactly. So it's a little bit more of a like, hey, wait a second, this is not what this is supposed to be used for. So that also, it's it's a little bit more like handcuffing them a little bit, but it helps.
That too. So we need to get on it.
But well, all right, I think that's all we have for you guys. I think what we can do too is some of the topics we talked about, like Vanguard, we can put links below, and that way you can read more about it, and the 529 plan, just so that you can go and do your more research about it. And feel free to leave comments below about what you're doing for your family wealth building plan. We would love to hear how others are also doing it as well.
And then also what I would say is to share other possible topics that you're interested in hearing about and discussing, and we take those into account when we're creating the shows and doing the episodes. So with that, check out our website, everythingaboutwealth.com, for more information on how you can build wealth too. And make sure to subscribe so that you can be notified whenever we upload new videos. All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.